Hi ladies and gents, my name's Zubair and I'm an architectural designer here in the UK. And over the last year or so I've managed to work on quite a range of different projects, kind of from new build homes to very bespoke residential extensions. And that's both on their external designs and more recently a lot more on the interiors. I'm based in the northwest in Cheshire, but my projects range from kind of near where I live to kind of all the way down near London, Wales, Scotland, and more recently some very exciting projects across the pond over in California. So I've worked on a range of different spaces, from your kind of box standard living room to large open plan kitchen, living, dining spaces, bedrooms, offices, formal dining areas, and so on. And from varying scales as well, from kind of really small stuff to some really grand stuff. If you want to check out the various projects that I've worked on in the last year or so, I'll leave the links either waving about above or below. A link to my Instagram where you can see kind of a range of those projects, and also to my website www.zubairhot.com, where you can get a bit of an idea of the design style that I work within. Now, having worked on a variety of different projects, there are a few key kind of design trends and styles that I've noticed that I get asked to do quite a lot of, and I'm noticing it becoming more and more popular, especially as we go into 2022. That's enough waffle from me, so let's jump straight into the first design style of 2022. So number one for me is in the kitchen area, and it's a particular style of kitchen, and that is the shaker kitchen. Now, originally you'd see this more as kind of like a traditional layout rather than, let's say, a contemporary looking kitchen. But depending on how you kind of pair the colour schemes, the certain design aspects, and especially the lighting, you can actually blend traditional with modern. And I feel like that's now the sweet spot for 2022, trying to keep some aspects of traditional, which has, you know, those cosy, homely feelings, but then with that modern twist to kind of keep things looking 21st century. A lot of the open plan kitchens that I've been doing over the last few months have involved a shaker style kitchen. And what do I actually mean by shaker style kitchen? So that's where, you know, you've got some intricate detailing on all the cabinetry, right down to even, you know, the type of handles that you've got on them, the way that the cooker is framed, the type of skirting that you see, and sometimes even the coving as well on the top of the units. Now for me, originally these were a bit kind of, when it first came into trend and I first started seeing them, it was a bit kind of like farmhouse style. Very traditional looking, you know, the flooring was usually kind of like a parquet or like a wooden flooring, and personally that wasn't for me. I didn't really like that. However, when you kind of pair, let's say, you know, the traditional detailing but with a more modern floor tile, for example, like a marble or a large format porcelain, and then match that with, let's say, the kitchen countertop, have like a veined marble, for example. Those are two kind of like quite modern design styles, but you're pairing it with something that's a bit more traditional. When you blend them together, they do look quite good. I've been asked to do a lot of that quite lately, and I'm not surprised. It's kind of a winning combination. Now for me, when I design a lot of shaker style kitchens, I kind of take my inspiration and approach from Tonal. You may have heard of them. They're quite a popular kitchen company here in the UK, and I feel like they were kind of like the OG when it came to kind of blending traditional shaker kitchens but making them really contemporary. Design trend number two. Now this is still to do with the kitchen area, so it ties in quite nicely. Now, previously just talked about pairing the right materials to go with a traditional kind of shaker style kitchen to bring it up to more of a contemporary look and feel. And with the second trend, it's kind of going with a two-tone look. Normally the safe option when you do your kitchen, you know, your standard kitchen cabinetry, and then you're most likely going to have like a breakfast bar or an island unit. The cabinetry is usually all in one colour, but what I find works quite nicely now is to actually separate the island to the rest of the cabinetry in the kitchen, kind of use a different tone of the same colour, just to differentiate between the two spaces. And what that actually does, so let's say for example you went with a different tone for your island unit, that actually highlights and frames the island away from the rest of the space. And you know, the way I like to design it is when I walk into any room or any space, each area should have a focal point, or you know, where your eye is kind of drawn towards, and that is your wow factor piece. And usually when doing a kitchen, you know, you're not normally drawn to, that's a really nice wall unit. You're usually looking at the island. So we want to get as much focus and drama and attention on the island as possible. I'll show you some examples of kind of where I've done this quite a lot, and in general I think I now always do a bit of a two-tone. It keeps things a bit more interesting and it just looks so much better, I think. I think I've got an example where kind of middle of last year I did a Shaker style kitchen. I think it was like a sage green, and I don't think I did a two-tone. It still looks great, but I'm biased, so but I think, you know, if we'd gone with kind of, let's say, a different tone of green, or maybe even a different colour altogether, I think that would have highlighted the island area a bit better. Now, if the space you're working with doesn't actually have space for an island, or you don't have an island, you know, you can do a split two-tone between your base units and your kind of wall units. For that kind of blend, I wouldn't go like too drastically different. I'd kind of keep it quite subtle, maybe a few shades lighter, a few shades darker, depending on what kind of depending on what colour you've gone with. Design trend number 3, the media wall. We're seeing these all over the place now. There's so many different ways of doing it. You can go as simple as you want, or you can go as crazy with it as you want. I've been fortunate enough to kind of work on completely varying different types of media walls, right from kind of really small rooms where, you know, you don't want something too blocky or something too in your face, because, you know, you simply don't have the room to work within. And then on the opposite scale, I've worked on some really big open plan spaces where you do need something a bit more in your face, something that covers an entire kind of like 5, 6, 7 meter long wall, to kind of get the desired effect. Let's start with the basics. Your very easy, simple media wall is usually kind of like a studded wall that's kind of built out from whatever wall that you're working with in your living room, or, you know, your open plan kitchen living space. You'll then punch a hole in it to kind of house your TV, however big that may be, and then usually below, what most people are doing, and what I do quite a lot of, is to fit kind of like a flush fitting electric fireplace. And the thing is, if you're doing a media wall, I think you do need 2 elements to it. I don't think if you just did the TV, it looks a little bit boring, and I feel that's why people are doing kind of those electric fireplaces. But it doesn't have to be an electric fireplace. You can have cutouts for either, you know, display items, flowers, vases, or even like a series of candles to kind of replace the idea of having a fireplace there. If you're working with kind of like a squarish room or rectangular room, so basically, you know, you're not an open plan space, if it's in your living room, for example, I do find that if you can do something wall to wall, that becomes the statement piece, it becomes the focal point of the room, and I would lean towards doing something like that. Again, if you've got kind of if you've got the space to work with it, because the last thing you want to do is, if you've got a small room and then you're building out further into it, you're just going to make the room feel even smaller. But if you've got some decent proportions to work with, I'd usually go kind of wall to wall. So either side of your TV, have your wall niches for your, I don't know, objects, vases, photo frames, or, you know, if you don't like any members of your family or yourself, something else, I don't know. But, you know, the more wall niches and design details you have, it gives you more scope to kind of play around with some lighting, which lighting's the key part really when it comes to your media wall. It just has that kind of moody hotel ambience, which most people want to go for, because, you know, who doesn't want to be staying in a nice hotel every single night of the week? And then instead of just kind of painting that studded wall, I like to use kind of different materials, different textured materials. What's really popular at the minute, Venetian plastering, but you're not just limited to that. You've got textured wallpapers now, which look really good. Or if you want to be really extra and you've got wads of cash, go the whole hog and do large format marble slabs, which kind of create that, you know, wow factor in your face kind of vibe, if that's what you're looking for. And you'll be surprised, a lot of people are looking for that. Trust me, I know. But the thing with doing, you know, really nice media wall, as I said, it becomes the focal point of the room, and then you don't really need to focus on kind of every little final minute detail of the rest of the room, because the way I look at it, when either you or someone walks into a room, you've only got one pair of eyes and they're kind of drawn to the first kind of in-your-face wow thing. And if it's a living room, it should be your media wall. If there might be corners of the room that you just don't like. Every single house is different. We don't all get to start with a blank canvas, so if you're able to kind of shift focus away from, let's say, the areas of the room that you're not so proud of, and shift it to an area where you've spent the time, the money into kind of designing it and getting it just right and styling it right, you've done a good job. Now, this wouldn't be an interior design video if I didn't talk about colour palettes and tones. Now, I'm not going to bore you to death on colour theory and things that even I don't actually 100% understand. What I am going to talk about is the colour palette that is it was dominating kind of the tail end of 2021, and I feel like it's going to go straight into 2022, and rightly so, because it looks really, really good. And so this is the year of the Greige. What the heck is Greige? Now, if you're anything like me, you get a lot of your inspiration, and you're obsessed with houses and kind of interiors. You probably get your inspiration from Instagram. For other people it might be Pinterest or just Google Images or whatever, but you'll have noticed a lot of home accounts kind of had these grey monochrome colour schemes running throughout the whole house. And again, I'm not surprised that they did, because it looks really, really good for the most part. But now we're kind of getting into that stage where we're trying to add a touch of kind of earthiness, I can't say that word, earthiness, and some warmth into our home. So the easiest way to do that is to start with your grey, get some beige, sprinkle that in, see what the end result is. What I'm seeing a lot of is to do with your base kind of wall finish. So rather than your plain white walls, you'd go with kind of, I work with a lot of fire on wall paints, so the two that are most common in the last couple of months, I think it's Elephant's Breath and Skimming Stone. I think it's those two. I might have made those two names up. They do all have funny names, but those are the two. I'll wave them about. Those are the two that I'm seeing quite popular at the minute. And the thing with that, it's like a good basis for any kind of room. And because it's quite neutral still, because it's effectively still a grey, it means that it pairs with a lot of different colours. So depending on your cushions, your sofa colours, you could actually introduce a range of other different kind of supporting colours, and it wouldn't look weird or ajar. So the final interior design trend that I'm noticing a lot of and doing a lot of kind of in my own practice is the power of lighting in bathrooms. I think we've all spent enough time in really nice hotels, and I don't know if you're like me, but you walk into a really nice hotel suite, the first thing you kind of do is also check out the bathroom, see how nice it is. And what we're doing is actually we want to bring that kind of really nice hotel suite bathroom vibe into our own homes, and usually the way that these really nice hotels do it, as well as kind of using your high gloss finishes, with marble flooring, marble tiles, kind of on the floor, the walls, etc. It's also the lighting. This is kind of where you need a very, very good electrician on speed dial. If you get the lighting right in a bathroom, it just works wonders, right from all the LED strip profiling that you might be doing. If you've got a false ceiling or edge recessed ceiling, doing really nice lighting around the perimeter, how you might frame elements on the ground, elements on the wall, even the actual toilet itself. And it doesn't matter on the size either. You can still achieve the same effect by kind of how you pair those materials with the lighting and how you frame them, because you can have the nicest material in the world, but if you're not framing it and lighting it up in the correct manner, you've wasted money there, because you're not doing that material justice. And it works the other way as well. You don't need to spend an arm and a leg on all your materials, getting the fanciest marble out there. There's lots of imitation materials out there. There are lots of very well priced materials that look good if you light them up good. Anyway, there you have it, ladies and gents, my top 5 interior design trends of 2022. If you did find any of what I spoke about useful, do give this video a big thumbs up. Do consider subscribing as well. What I plan to be doing on this channel is to share kind of more behind the scenes of Design by ZH, how I go about various projects, both in their approach and kind of delivery. I'll be talking about design tips and tricks that I kind of employ when I design spaces for clients. Some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to interior design. Let me make the mistakes for you, so you don't have to make them yourself. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.